It was weird growing up on a farm when I was young. It was more of maybe a hobby farm, although I think my dad was trying subsistence living for a while. We raised everything from chickens and ducks and geese to a field of buckwheat one year. He wanted buckwheat pancakes. We raised a large garden and kind of lived off the land for a while. I had memories of doing some of that as a kid, but it had been a while. We stopped doing the farm thing probably when I was about halfway through high school.
Suburbs. I grew up in Centerville, which is a suburb of Dayton. And, I mean, we had a house with maybe an acre of land. Nothing like a farm. No animals except for 3 dogs. And always loved outdoor activities, but really never thought I would end up living on a farm. I was going to Ohio State at the medical center for a residency, and he was working in Centerville. And so we found this farmhouse halfway in between. It worked out well. It was his boss had grown up in the old farmhouse, and his boss's mom still owned it. So she said she would rent it to us, and since it was sort of halfway, it's hard to find a halfway point between Dayton and Columbus.
The rental farm was beautiful. What I liked about it the most was the house and barn yard were all in the center of the property.
We had updated the kitchen while we were there and the bathroom a little bit, but it was cold in the winter, a typical cold, drafty old farmhouse, and no air conditioning in the summer, but it did have a nice breeze that would go through. The 90-degree August days when you're canning beans in the kitchen, though, were kind of miserable.
You're living on a farm, you've got 150 acres, you got a big old red barn, a chicken coop. What are you going to do? You're going to start playing around, and that's what I did.
It was great. The garden was great. It was exciting to have chickens, which we did the second year we were there. And I don't think I'd ever eaten a fresh egg that fresh. And so that was a really fun experience. It was a learning experience, especially for me because I'd never done much of it. Even the garden, I didn't know how you prepare the soil, how you do anything. I learned a lot, and Mark taught me a lot. I was pretty busy during my residency, but I loved the food, and I loved the end product of it, so started getting into it more.
It's a lot of work, and when you're doing it on a rental property, you really start to begin to add up how much it costs and how much your time's worth. And how many more times are you going to build a pen knowing that someday you're going to move? And so we think we both finally got the itch to, okay, if we're going to do all this work, let's do it for us. Something that'll last a few years. This was what we could afford. We knew there was a lot of work to it. But we got the barns, there's a decent amount of space there was an old hog barn here. The house was nice and large enough. But for me, a lot, it was the location. If you look around, it's very similar to that 150-acre farm.
The house is nicer. The barns are a little bit nicer. There's electric and water out there, which we didn't have at our old place. This house is a little more updated in terms of having insulation and central air. So it was an upgrade almost from the other farm that we lived on. So I think it's exciting. Yeah, it's a lot of work. I mean, you come home at night and you have to do chores, do work. This year we don't have a garden because we moved during the summer. So it's been kind of sad not having that. But when you do, you have to go out and weed every night, or when there's beans, you're picking beans and you're canning beans or tomatoes. Whatever is ripe in the garden, you have to continually do it or it just gets overwhelming to do on the weekend. And then the weekends are kind of saved for bigger projects. You end up spending a lot of your time here, but if it's something you love, then it's not like that much hard work.
Why did I collect the animals that I picked? Well, chickens were easy because chickens I grew up with. That was my job every day after school, collect the eggs. Turkeys, when I added those, that was more for fun. It seemed like an extension. I could probably handle that, and the idea of a Thanksgiving turkey that was mine was kind of exciting. And then the ability to maybe sell some of those was also kind of nice. The hogs, when that happened, that was the first real farm animal, and I had no experience whatsoever. I spent a lot of time reading, talking to people, and manning up for the day I had to go catch the feeder hogs because I was so afraid they were going to make me catch them, and they did. So I had no idea what I was doing. There's no excuse for a hands-on experience versus book learning. I do like the end of the day here, especially when you put in a lot of work and you can sit back and see some fruits of that. I especially like in the fall when we'll have a dinner and everything on that plate is something we raised or grew, and it somehow tastes better that way. I like being dad to all these different creatures and making sure that they go to bed safe and sound and well-fed and that sort of thing. And it does bother me when the coyotes stop by and grab takeout. It's a weird kind of family, barn cats and dog and turkeys and the geese.
It's just been so rewarding, just knowing where your food comes from and knowing that your hard work is what's going into it and making the end product. Plus, living out in the country has been really wonderful. I love it out here. I'd pick this over city any day. It's a nice escape when you come home from a long day at work.
I like the outdoors. I like to get my hands dirty. I like to feel part of the environment that I'm in. Sometimes it doesn't turn out right. There will probably be things I build on this farm that fall down. There are times when the pigs get out. There'll be fencing issues, those sorts of things, and that's part of it. So I take the good with the bad. But it's a lot of fun. The journey's a lot of fun.